Hello and welcome to tonight's CLNS Media Patriots Roundtable. I'm your host, Nick Quaglia, sitting here per usual with Mike Molyneaux and Marv Ezhan. So, guys, this is now post week 3 of NFL football. I can't believe we're already past week 3 of the Patriots season. Patriots now sit at 3-0, but even though the team looks really good all the way around, obviously no more Antonio Brown, so that's another discussion that we could have. But there's a piece to this team that hasn't looked great that a lot of people did think was going to be great this season, including me. I think we all kind of had high hopes for him. Sony Michel has had a tough go of it so far. Just looking at the stats, week 1, 15 attempts, 14 yards, 0.9 average, no touchdowns. Week 2, 21 attempts, 83 yards, 4 yards on average, 1 touchdown. And then week 3, 9 attempts, 11 yards, 1.2 average, and 1 touchdown. He's been targeted in the passing game 1 time this year, 0 receptions. So, guys, that's the question right there is what do you think is going on with Sony Michel? Do you think that this is a bad start that we should worry about, or is it really not his fault? Do you think that he's going to pick this up soon? Marv, we'll start with you.
I think the concern level should be at like a 5 out of 10. It's something that you need to start monitoring because, Sony Michel, this is a guy who was a rock star last year. He wasn't a guy getting 1.9 yards per carry at all. And we know that the offensive line, there's been some changes in there. And could that be a reason why he hasn't been having a great start? Of course. But also, there was a lot of hype of Sony Michel this training camp. Oh,
A lot of it.
he's been catching the ball from the backfield. He's been looking good. He's had a burst. We even saw it in the preseason game, how great he looked. And going into the season, we have not seen that. And going into this last game against the Jets, something that's eye alarming to me, Rex Burkhead outcarried him 11-9. That right there is alerting for me because like Rex, we can all agree Burkhead has had a great start to this season. He's been running the ball very well, and he's been catching out the backfield. But no one would ever have thought that Rex Burkhead would have more carries than Sony Michel. We understand that this offense has gotten a lot better throughout the summer, going into the season. When you add in Josh Gordon coming in on the team, there was a point AB was on the team as well. So it started to become a little more pass heavy than we thought it would be. During the shows, we were saying this is going to be a very run heavy team, and it hasn't been the case because now Brady has some serious weapons. But still, in the little opportunities when the Patriots do need to run the ball, it has not been working.
Yeah, and you mentioned Rex Burkhead, which I think is it's a big part of this discussion here because he's looked great. I mean,
It's
like
so
maybe not
good.
great, but he's looked very good. And I think the difference between Sony and Rex Burkhead, and I'm going to get more into this when I jump into my further detail, is the explosiveness that Burkhead's had compared to Michelle. But we'll get into that. Mike, before we jump over to you guys, the football season is back, and now you can get into the game with our exclusive sports betting partners, betonline.ag. Sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit and make your bets on your favorite professional or college team. Every spread, every total, every winner or loser, straight bet, parlay, or tease your way through the entire season. Will Mahomes throw for 56 touchdowns? Pretty good one. Can the Patriots go undefeated? Bet on all of this action with the fastest odds and updates, payouts with our new sportsbook partners, betonline.ag. Head over to betonline.ag and use your mobile device to join today and use promo code CLNS50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus. Get into all the action today with betonline.ag, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Mike, what do you think? Is it time to be concerned about Sony Michel yet, or is it a little too early to do that?
A little too early, but I think the struggles that he's having to start off the season, I'm just going to chalk it up to a little sophomore slump. Obviously, like Marv said, coming out of training camp, expecting big things from Sony Michel, expecting him to be a major part of this offense. You're thinking, excuse me, no Rob, excuse me, no Rob Gronkowski anymore. You're thinking, all right, a lot of the goal line work is probably definitely going to go to Sony Michel, just like he did in his rookie season. He was really relied upon once he was fully healthy and ready to go. Um, I just feel as if we don't have to be too concerned knowing the fact that the offense is so high powered. And, you mentioned guys like Rex Burkhead, who's been doing a hell of a job back there as well. James White, yes, he missed last game with the birth of his child. Um, but I'm sorry, Sony Michel will come around. I'm not concerned about him. per se. I just feel as if as the season progresses, he'll start to find his way a little bit more. We know the talent's there. I don't think, there hasn't been any reports of him dealing with any injury or anything like that to really hamper him or slow him down. So I just think as the season progresses, he'll start to come around. And somewhere along the way, the Patriots will implement some random game plan where Sony Michel is probably going to carry the ball like 20 times, 25 times because they just want to force feed him and just run it down opposing team's throat. The Patriots are good for doing or having game plans like that at random points in the season. So we'll see a game where Sony Michel will really break out and we'll all come back down to earth and not really be too concerned with this slow start to the season.
Yeah, and just bringing it back to Rex Burkhead, it's just remember over the preseason after the draft when they picked up Damian Harris, you had James White, you had Sony Michel.
Yep.
There were some questions about whether or not Rex Burkhead was even going to be on this team because
Right.
you're going to have a deep group in the backfield. Rex Burkhead again looks damn good, and it's just the explosiveness compared to between the two. Sony Michel when he gets that ball, it doesn't seem like there's any immediate acceleration, and maybe that's because as soon as he takes the ball, he runs directly into the backs of his offensive linemen, which I think is another big part of this. I remember last year, guys, when we talk about Sony Michel, and he had a pretty good season. A lot of it was we were saying that it was based on how well the offensive line played. The Patriots have a very solid offensive line, and a lot of that comes from David Andrews, who obviously is going to be out for the entire season. A lot of Sony Michel's big runs last year felt like came up the middle when David Andrews would open up a hole. Now you got to work with Ted Karras. Obviously, David Andrews, but Sony's going to have to figure that out if he's going to get better going forward on the season. I don't know. I think the offensive line has a big part of this because we talked about it a ton last year, and the offensive line to me is just it's if they play well, then Sony Michel plays well. If they don't play well, then Sony Michel struggles. And I mean, you're reading these average yards per carry 0.9, 4.0, 1.2. The guy is not getting anywhere, and I think a lot of it yesterday. A lot of people are starting to get or give Sony Michel flack on Twitter after the game, and the offensive line did not look well or did not look good in the run game. But again, you look at Rex Burkhead, and he's handling that. He's making cuts. Rex Burkhead's been a lot more patient. He takes the ball, he sits in the backfield, and he looks for the hole. Sonny Michel, it's like he grabs the ball, and again, he just runs directly into the back of the guy in front of him. Real quick before we move on, I want to bring this up. So obviously, we know now at the time of recording, James Develin down on the IR. How much do you think this is going to affect Sony Michel? Do you think it's going to have a major effect on him, or is it going to be about the same? Mike, what do you think?
Losing Devlin is huge. He's one of the best, fullbacks in the league, or at least for teams that still use fullbacks. And not having him back there to kind of help in the block and kind of lead the charge for Michelle, I think it'll definitely be huge. I mean, they obviously picked up that guy that came over from some league that's never played in the NFL,
Germany.
Wherever the case is.
Jacob Johnson.
Yeah, and they're hoping he can somewhat fill that void, but that's tough void to fill not having James Devlin. I think not only Michelle but the whole team, they're gonna really miss his presence and what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I think his name's actually Jakob Janssen. I'm not kidding. I actually think that's how his name's actually pronounced.
Wow.
Marv, how much do you think Devlin's going to have an effect, or the lack of Devlin is going to have an effect on Michelle?
Yeah, it won't have an effect on the Patriots as a whole, I think. But one thing that Devlin was big on is the goal line run package. You have Devlin up there to block up the middle, or sometimes even sneak it with Devlin as well, and that might affect Sony Michel big time throughout the game. I don't think it's going to be a huge effect. Patriots will implement different guys. We talk about Jakob Janssen, trying to be the replacement as well. So they're gonna mix things here and there. I think where he'll be really missed is in the goal line.
Yeah, and we talked about it in the preseason. Sony Michel looked like he was going to be a pass catching back, or at least be a little bit more than he was. He's had
Yeah,
one target this year and he didn't catch it. Was that
he's
yeah?
being
Was that
It's
against the
not for him,
Jets?
man. It's not for him. They
Yeah,
got
well,
he's being very one-dimensional.
I needed to. Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. When Sony Michel comes in, and we talked about this last year too with him. When he comes in, it's almost like if he's going to get the ball, it's just going to be a direct run play. Nothing else, no funny business. You got to make him two-dimensional. You got to make him a dual threat because if he's out there, then you got to make the deep.
that just takes away opportunities from James White. and Burkhead.
Then put them both out there. Let's do some dual threat. Look, I'm gonna half point PPR. I need Sony Michel to start doing something. I need him to start catching the ball. It's killing me.